Hello and welcome back to TUC0's Talks. Episode 1 is in the books and really excited about the people leaving messages. So if you're one of those and send a message and send a thank you or made a comment, cannot thank you enough for that. That means a lot to me and I appreciate it. So episode 1 was on the staff meeting. This time, episode 2, we're going to talk about giving permission to leave on time. So again, we're talking to leaders of all different types, whether it's a leader of 10 people, of 20, 50, 100,000, it all comes down to the same thing is making sure that you give your people the attention that you need and that they need. So as we start thinking about what does that mean and how do we start thinking for people, we just need to understand the different types of people that are out there. So when I was working special operations, these were alpha type of people, male and female. They wanted to work for the best. They wanted to do the best. They always wanted to be out front. And that's really the only way to get into those positions is to be the person that's going to put in the time and the effort. But in that, you as a boss need to really start thinking through, how am I going to keep these people in it for the long game? How am I going to protect them against themselves? And how am I going to not only lead them, but have them follow an example that is healthy, not only for them, but for their family as well? You can't force them to do one thing, and you need to allow them to do their own things and what's important to them. However, you do need to put them in the right position. And that's what we're going to talk about. So the first thing we're going to talk about is actually a previous boss of mine, and she was outstanding. And, at some other time, I'll tell you the story about how she saved my career, and she really saved me from myself and did some great things for my family. But we'll talk about that in later episodes. But I remember she would be able to put so much time, effort, energy, thought into what we're doing and how we're moving forward and taking care of us. But I always saw her leave at 4:30. And it would be she would walk into my supervisor's office, or she would just walk down the hall or walk through the bay or something that she was seen. And she was seen leaving. I remember after a while, I just was like, how is she able to get all this done? Like, that seems impossible. Like, I can't get everything done, and I'm staying late. And one day I was dropping something off, and her assistant was out front, and I was trying to schedule a meeting with her. She's like, oh, she's in the back. You can go talk to her. And I was like, what? And so I walk in, and she's at her desk working. And I saw her leave like an hour ago. And so I stopped and asked and said, how did you come back? We didn't see you. She goes, well, don't tell anyone this, but at 4:30, I get in my car and I drive it away, and then I park in the back and I hit the back entrance up. And I was like, why? And she's like, because people won't leave until the boss leaves. And I want to give them permission to do that. I still can't do it. And so it got me to think, how do I do that? How do I think for other people? And there's some jobs that I would leave right on time, and then I would take it and I would go home and shut the door and try to get some work done. But if you have 3 boys like I do, then that's not really an option. So I ended up staying later at work and trying to work through that. So as you're working through, find what works for you. But either way, you can't just tell people that they can leave at 4:30. You've got to demonstrate that in some way. If it gets to a point where people are putting that time in and they're starting to put overtime and you realize that your team is burnt out a little bit, you're going to have to set a time. And if, hey, work's done at 4:30, at 5 o'clock, you've got to kick people out of the office. So I remember specifically multiple times going into the office and saying, what time are you done today? And people would be like, oh, 5:30, 6. And I was like, nope, 5 o'clock. That's the last time. And it was usually a yes, sir. Or, hey, I've got to do this. And then I would say, that's not a priority right now. The priority is you going home. And that's important because people get lost in the minutia of now. Like, I have to have it now. Well, no, you don't. You really don't. It's more important that your person's going to be there in 10 to 15 years and be productive. And even if they're not in your organization, it's still about people, whether they're with you or not. And you've got to think long term of, how am I setting these people up for success? Your job is to take care of people. And that includes taking care of the family and making sure that mom's home or dad's home. So think of a time and say, I need you out by X, and then be there and kick them out. Hey, you've got 5 minutes. Shut off the lights, go home, and make sure that you're doing that. You will not believe how much better people will feel. And they'll feel the pinch, right? They've got to be done in 15 minutes, but then they'll walk out. And that time that they'll be able to spend with the family, and the boss said to leave, and that makes a big difference. Now, if you're running an organization of 125 people and you have multiple offices in different geographically separated units, or even just the building across the street, you're not going to always be able to do that. And that's true. But you need to try every once in a while. But you do need to hold your supervisors accountable. And they have to understand that that's a priority. It is the priority, is to take care of their people. Now, if you're an organization in the military where people are gone TDY, then that's great. But there are organizations everywhere that you're asking people to go to a different city and be away. We call that, head on pillow time. So if they're home and if they're able to spend the night at home and they're able to put their head on their pillow, that's head on pillow time. And we tracked that in special operations. We tracked the amount of time that I was asking them to be deployed, that I was asking them to be TDY, that I was asking them to do even local training that they weren't able to go home with. How much time are they away from their families? And that's important. And different people are going to have different times that they can be away from their families, but we still need to track it. And we still need the supervisors to be able to do that. So if you're over 50 and you've got people that are over 10, you're talking to those people that are over 10 people, and you're saying, hey, how's the head on pillow time? How is the time that they're able to leave the office? How is their relationship with their family? And you need to ask your supervisors. They don't have to be buddy-buddy with the families. In some, that's just not practical, and that's just not how it works. But they need to know names. They need to know, are they married? Do they have kids? How old are their kids? Are they in school? Are they in sports? All that's really important, because if they have games that they need to go to, or if they need to travel for a travel team, you need to know that, because you need to make sure that if they need to leave, they can do that. Like, that's important. And if the family life is right, life just gets easy. And we need to make sure that we know that. And so I had a couple opportunities about my mid-level captain going into my major, and there was one opportunity that I had to go to New York, and it was going to be a lot of fun. But I knew that I was not very good with people. Like that just wasn't my skill set. I am very operation mindset. I understand mission. I understand, get to the X. I can do that. I can lead that. But I wasn't very good at leading people. But I heard that there was a boss that was, and a job was open. And I took a job to learn from a person who was good with people. And when I walked into his office, he was putting up a chart of everyone in the organization, which was around, I think, 80 to 90 people. He had their names up there. He had their addresses up there. He had their spouse, their kids' names with age beside it of everyone with a picture of that person. And in writing beside it, he wrote down head on pillow time of every single person in his organization. And he would, when he would meet the family members, he would know their names and he would know what they're doing. And it was incredible. And people loved him because he cared about them, not what the job was, but he cared about the people. And it wasn't just the people that were getting the mission done, and ours are the operators, but it was also the support personnel as well. And so it didn't matter what your job was. If you were in the organization, he cared, he knew it, and it was important to him. And he invited people over to his house, and it was just an amazing leader. And I appreciated that. And he held me to the fire of, I need to be better at taking care of people. And man, there's some times in my life that I have just failed miserably, and I'm in my head thinking of the number one thing, and I think of this every day, where I didn't know the family members like I should have. And I had met them, and I knew their names and all that, but I didn't. And when push came to shove and I really needed to know someone, I didn't. And that's probably one of my, not considered overseas, but in here in America, that was my biggest failure of anything I did. And so know your people. Don't make that mistakes, because there will be times when you need to know people and you need to know them well. And if you don't, like you should, then you're not just failing yourself, you're failing everybody. And man, that's important. So I always talk to people about leadership. It doesn't mean that I've done things the right way all the time. And heck, I've learned more from my failures than I have from my successes, for sure. One of the other things is I had a boss that always gave a day off. And that day off was either for your birthday or your anniversary. So if you were married or dating someone for a long time and you had an anniversary, the whole intent of the purpose was the day is yours, but it's not yours to just mess around. It's yours to invest and to thank others. So if it's your birthday, take time to think about that and to call the people that have spent time with you and invested in you. And if it's an anniversary, then, obviously spend time with that person. I think all of this comes back to the key concept of, how do I think about the people that I'm there to serve? And again, we talked about it last week, was a leader is not someone who's there that everybody can report to them and that everyone can give them information so that they can make things happen. But really turning that leadership pyramid upside down and thinking, how am I going to support everyone so that they can make the right decisions and their minds can be clear to execute the mission so that everyone else can do it? I'm just there to clear obstacles and to invest. And if you can figure that out, and if you can start learning what to do and how to think, and you will be a far better leader than I ever was, but a leader that can really, truly affect change and work through. So again, make sure that you are giving people permission to leave on time, whether that is daily, whether that is monthly, or whether that is annually on the birthday or the anniversary. Make sure that you take care of the family members, because they are part of your responsibility as well. And if their mom or dad are always working for you and for things that you don't really need, then there's punishment for that whole family. So stopping and thinking through that. All right. So that is episode 2. Hopefully that y'all were able to get something out of that. Episode 3, is going to be titled Don't Forget to Fire Yourself. And if you're on LinkedIn and you haven't seen my LinkedIn, I'd welcome you to join there. There is an article on there that is mentioned, Don't Forget to Fire Yourself. It's all about taking a new position and the dangers of wanting to do the old job instead of learning your new one. Again, you'll see that will be about taking care of people as well. All right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you next time. This is TUC0's Wright checking off.